It's just so typical of Lane Kiffin to do something so utterly destructive. And what does he do? What Lane Kiffin always does. He lights a match to the castle that he built, and he runs out of town in the middle of the night, although this was in broad daylight. It's utterly disgraceful. There's no getting around it. And Lane Kiffin trying to blame others, trying to blame the adults in the room is just so comical.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
Who's got it better than us?
This is the Church Pew Sports Podcast, featuring a group of pastors delivering bombastic takes on sports, life, and faith.
We're going to attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Take a knee.
Man, it's hard to break us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Lend an ear.
These are some of the best questions I've had. I have to tell you that straight up.
As the Church Pew Sports Podcast begins.
We were all supposed to be here together, man. We're destined for this. Just stay the course.
Give each other a high five.
We're giving out some high fives as we welcome you into another episode of Church Pew Sports, connecting sports to life and faith. And the more that I hear the sound bites in that opening, the more I think some of them are outdated. Like, who's got it better than us? Well, if you're talking about Michigan, a lot of teams have it better than us. And when you hear Dan Campbell say, "You can't break us, man," well, they're awfully close. They're awfully close to being broken. It's good to have you all with us. Bill Hobson here, joined as always by Pastor Paul Miller and David Collins. And today, so excited to bring back on for the first time in, I don't know, at least a year perhaps, Pastor Dan Davis, who some of us know and love so dearly. And it's good to have you back from the land of South Haven, Michigan, about 2 hours before the Lions and Cowboys kick off, about 4 days after David and I watched our Wolverines get absolutely bullied by the Buckeyes. Here we are in the land of football, of Lane Kiffin, of the college playoff committee rankings and all sorts of confusion. But before we go any further, Dan, how are you?
It's great to be here. Yeah, it has been a moment, hasn't it?
Yeah, since the last time you were here, I believe you became a grandfather.
I did. And weren't there only like 4 teams in the playoffs then or something like that? It keeps growing every year, you know? So, yeah, great to be with you guys, definitely.
Things have changed in the playoff world. Now there are 12, and it's still not enough, apparently. So, Paul, we've got all sorts of potential starting points for this conversation, but we should probably let everybody know that we as Wolverine fans, David and myself, we're not ducking the Buckeye thing. Why don't you give everybody the rationale for us not leading with the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you that listen regularly know that we have a little NCAA Pick'em competition that runs the entire length of the college football regular season. And it turns out that the 2 guests that we need to bring on the podcast to talk about the results of that, the person who finished first and the person who finished last, are both monster Buckeye fans. And so I was telling you earlier, Bill, and I will tell you guys, and I don't think that we need to talk about the game today, because next week there's going to be a couple of people on this episode or on this podcast that are more than happy to talk about what happened this Saturday after Thanksgiving. And maybe by then Ohio State fans will have learned how to win with humility, and we can have a better conversation than we would have right now. So there you go.
We have sent David to protect the Block M at the 50-yard line just in case.
That's right.
Just in case things don't go well. Well, then let's dive into this crazy world of college football. And as we sit here on the cusp of conference championship games and all sorts of strange things that are happening, and in the midst of all that, the coaching carousel continues to be bizarre, led, I think, primarily by what has transpired with Lane Kiffin, and the oddity of that departure from Ole Miss and the entry to LSU. Let me just give you a quick little soundbite from Lane during his introductory press conference in Baton Rouge.
Actually, we're going by Tiger Stadium. I called one person. I called Ed Ogeron. And I said, "Hey, man, all I can do is, man, this place just makes me want to talk like you right now." I did. I was like, we were in the car, and the kids were in there, and I was like, and the coaches, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like channeling Ed right now. I was like, I'm feeling him. Like, I rolled down the window, and I was like, go Tigers to the fans. And I'm like, so I called Ed. I said, I don't know what's going on, man, but I'm feeling you right now.
All right, so Dan, since it's been so long since you've been with us, I'm going to let you start. When we say the name Lane Kiffin to you, what's your initial reaction?
I had not heard that soundbite, but he already has Brian Kelly beat, so maybe that was a pretty low bar, right?
Family.
Yeah. I don't know if this is contrarian. I can't get too mad at Lane Kiffin because the whole thing feels broken. The whole system feels broken, and he's playing this the best he can. But, between the changing landscape of college football, between, what coaches have to look at now in terms of resources and funding and NIL and everything like that, and when they have to make their decisions, I mean, it's just a lot to take in, so could he have played it better? Is he my favorite? No, yes and no, but I don't feel the same outrage that maybe others feel toward him, given the bigger. What did Jesus say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. No, wait, those are rap lyrics. But I think you kind of get the sense, right? Yeah. He's just leveraging this scenario to do the best that he can, and he's kind of thinking long term. Stinks though. Yeah. You're an Ole Miss fan. It stinks, that's for sure.
Yeah, Paul, where do you go with this?
Yeah, I'm not that different from where you're at, Dan. Like I don't have any problem with him making the decision to go to LSU. It's a little weird to me that the way it plays out, it's a good thing that we can trust everything we read on Twitter because it gives us all the facts without any bias and everything else. But the stuff about him saying, I wanted to coach Ole Miss in the playoff and the administration wouldn't let me, and then players coming out and saying, well, that's not really how it went down in the locker room, coach, and all of that kind of stuff is unfortunate. And the timing of it. I really like Lane Kiffin. He's entertaining. He's always taking shots at Ohio State, and I think it's kind of fun to have that happen. I did find one tweet that I do want to read you guys, and if this is out of bounds, rebuke me later, but it was this guy. I'm not even going to say who he is. I'm just going to read his tweet. He was quoting Lane Kiffin as saying, I made the difficult decision to leave my wife, who's been very loyal to me, for another woman that my current wife despises. I was hoping to keep living in our house through Christmas and acting like nothing was wrong. My request was denied by my wife, despite the fact that the kids wanted me to stay through Christmas. And I just thought that it's actually kind of funny, and it's actually a little bit of a description of how the thing played out. So once again, I'm in this place where I don't begrudge him the right to go coach where he wants to coach, and everything else. But I wish it had just, the way it had played out was different. That's the part that gives me heartburn.
And before I throw it to David, let me just play a response from the athletic director from Ole Miss. This is Keith Carter. He was on a program, I think yesterday, when he was asked, hey, was Lane within his rights to expect the opportunity to coach this team in the playoffs?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things he said publicly that I'm not sure are totally accurate. I think that both coach and his representation knew, several weeks ago that the coaching in the playoffs was not going to be an option if he was not the Ole Miss head coach. And, I think
him finding out at 8:30 on Sunday morning for the very first time that he would not be coaching the playoff is not accurate?
No, that's not accurate.
That's not accurate. And then, of course, there's two-time Super Bowl winning coach Bill Cowher with some of his own thoughts on this whole mess.
Why would an AD let a coach who made a decision that he wanted to go to LSU and not stay at Ole Miss coach my players and use my coaches and tell them for the next month why they should be joining him at LSU? Totally understand. I would just say thank you, Lane, and goodbye. And that being said, if indeed he decides to take other coaches with him, I would just say any player that goes to play for Lane Kiffin, just understand one thing. It's not about the program. It's about Lane Kiffin. because he don't care about the players that he just went through a season with, a special season, players he's had for 4 years with an opportunity to go to the playoffs. He's decided to take them and not only leave them, which I get, okay, you want to do that, but now you're going to take offensive coaches with you and destroy the program.
And deplete the program.
Deplete the program and the dreams of these young men who you said that you want to be there and you want to do it with.
Now there's some ominous music under that. I didn't add the music. It was part of the soundbite. But for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you'll notice that while that soundbite was playing, David Collins had this kind of wry smile on his face. I could tell that he was chambering what he wanted to share about the whole Lane situation. So David, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just first wanted to say we're about 10 minutes into this thing, and this is the first time I've spoken. So I find that egregious, and I have questions about the host. But anyways, we'll leave that aside. If you love college football, you love it because it's objectively stupid. It is crazy. It is Duke is playing in the ACC championship game, and they're 7-5. All right, nothing makes sense in college football, and the thing that makes the least sense is why you would hire Lane Kiffin and expect him not to do this to your program. Like, these people that are so righteously indignant about this whole situation, this is who the man is. It's who he's been. Tennessee, he did the same thing when he left to USC. He was an embarrassment at USC, and they left him on a tarmac to get his own ride home because he was coaching so poorly. He just left Ole Miss after he rehabilitated on the whole Nick Saban rehabilitation program. Then he leaves Ole Miss for LSU. And I'll tell you one thing: if that Alabama job ever opens up, he's leaving LSU to go to Alabama. This is who the man is. And I want to highlight a couple things that I love about this whole situation with Lane Kiffin. The contract, the incentives in the contract, they're perfect, okay? Not only does he get 65 hours for his family, not even football related, on private jets, not only does he get first class accommodations when he goes on recruiting trips, this is the beautiful part of it. He somehow got in that contract that however good Ole Miss does in the playoffs, LSU will pay him more money every time they win. So he's still rooting for Ole Miss. This is he was going to be that guy, so I'm using my stuff now, but it's the most beautiful grift in the entire world. And guess what? He still has never won anything of note.
Right.
Ever. Right. On any stop he's been in. The fact, and here's the other beautiful part to this. LSU just did this with Brian Kelly. They just did it and said, we're never doing that again. And they've done it worse this time. Oh, it is so wonderful. It's magical how college football is so stupid. And I enjoy it so much. I eat it.
Oh man, I'm glad I made you wait 10 minutes to get all of that, the pressure cooker to release. Woo. And it brings to mind this question, Dan, that I've kind of been kicking around in my head here for the last few days. And that is, in the current world of college athletics, does a coach owe his players the same amount of loyalty that he might have 10 or 15 years ago? Because it used to be that a player really, really had to give a lot of thought to transferring. They have to sit out. They have to sit out a year or a semester or whatever it was. They would miss a season of competition. And now, of course, when they're on TV and they bring up that player's profile, instead of seeing that player's major, you just see all the schools they've attended. That's what they list on the side of that picture. So has the requirement or the expectation of loyalty kind of been rewritten over this last just couple of years of the NIL era?
1,000%, right? I was thinking, you mentioned Lane Kiffin before we were queuing up this show. And Bill, I wanted to take you into the time machine. The year was 1989.
Yeah.
The athletic director,
Bo Schembechler.
General Bo.
Yep.
Right. Bill Frieder had just taken a job at Arizona State. And what's the quote? Do you remember?
A Michigan man is going to coach a Michigan team. Yeah.
Right. So some things play out anew. But I tell you, 100%. Speaking of Michigan, I was watching their basketball team the other day, and they are incredibly good. And I don't know any of the names, but But again, that's the landscape, right? And that's basketball. It's amplified 1,000% in football. So yeah, I think the loyalty thing is really relative. And I think we talked about this 2-3 years ago when this was just emerging, and we could see, for instance, the group of 5 schools or whatever they're called now would just serve as a farm system, feeding system for the Power 5, now 4, now 2. Right. Yeah. And so unless something changes to tap into David's wild, wonderful, wacky, nothing makes sense Calvin ball. There's old time comics. Yeah. We're making up the rules as we go along here. That's for sure.
Well, and Dan, for years, I think the very first time I was on this podcast, I talked a lot about the whole paying college kids, and this stuff was happening under the table and behind the curtain. And I was always like voicing that, let's just get it out in the open. Let's call it what it is. Let's stop pretending that it's amateurism, a made-up word that the NCAA invented in order to not pay these people who are generating billions of dollars of revenue for their schools. It's like, I'm glad it's finally out in the open. Like, yeah, sure. Do we need to figure something out? Does there need to be commissioners? Do we need to? But the NCAA didn't need to be involved in this whole situation. They were just there to help protect the billionaire people who are behind the scenes in this whole situation. And one more Lane Kiffin fact that I find hysterical. He spent the last couple of years, there's a documentary with him, all this stuff, trying to make him look like a nice, grounded person. And he always had a dog with him. And the dog's name was Juice. Juice even had a Twitter account. Lane Kiffin left for LSU, and it turns out that was not even his dog. It was with him at all the games. It was with him everywhere. And he leaves, and it's just like, oh, that wasn't my dog. It's just like they rented a dog for him just to make him look like it's perfect. It's beautiful.
That's probably instruction for all of the pastors listening who might be having some difficulty within their churches. Maybe it's time to bring the dog in, right? Paul, it's kind of the canine shield.
Takes emotional support animal to a whole new level.
Here's a perfect transition, right? I'm going to completely put Dan Davis on the spot and ask him to climb back into the year 2018 in the Wayback Machine. I am interviewing at Hopevale Church, and we are negotiating like my NIL package and my signing bonus.
Did you bring a dog with you?
No, I didn't bring my dog, but I was asking for X number of hours on the Hopevale jet and all this stuff. We're talking about all of those things, right? And in a moment of joking mostly, I say to Dan, I don't know if you remember this, but I say to Dan, I'll come to Hopevale if you promise me you'll stay for 10 years, right? Because at the time I'm thinking, I want to go work with this guy. So I'm joking, not joking when I ask that question. I wonder if that's like there's an equivalent there for how like a commit feels when they're talking to a coach who's going to be gone, however many months after, or a coach, when a player says, I want to come play for you, and the coach in the back of his mind is like, yeah, I don't think 2 years from now I'm still going to be here. And I'm not putting thoughts in your head from 2018. I'm just asking you to comment on that for those of us who are never going to be college football coaches, but are caught in, there are opportunities in all of our lives where we have to have conversations like that, where someone's asking us to make a promise that we're not necessarily sure is a promise we can keep, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, 100%, which makes you, as an aside, I know this is a Big Ten group here. It makes you respect like Kirk Ferentz and Tom Izzo and, whatever you think of those guys, just longevity in one place. And again, to have that alignment all the way up down through administration and presidents and ADs and so forth, to provide that stability. But that feels like a thing of the past. And hopefully the workplace and especially ministry is a little more rooted. Pastoral ministry is local, and longevity builds trust, and trust takes time.
Yeah. And Paul, as you were asking that question, I was kind of thinking that there are probably fewer people who would begrudge Kiffin the career move, because it is a career move and it's a promotion and it's a lot more money. And as David said, it's basically all of the chocolate in Willy Wonka's factory that he could ever consume. But the sticking point is he just walked away from these kids. And in the window of time, and David, you can talk about this too, the schedule of all of this is just so unfair to all parties concerned. Yeah. There is no way on earth that the whole pressure to make these major program-related decisions that impact hundreds of kids and hundreds of families, there's no way that should be happening during the season with the playoffs about to start, especially in their case, in Ole Miss's case, for a school that is on the they're on the leading edge of making it into the 12 teams. Maybe not now because it's such a subjective system that we'll talk about in a minute. But is that a different set of circumstances, David, from career move, hey man, do your thing, go get them, to all of the lives impacted that he just walked away from?
Yeah, that's one of the issues, and I'll save my college football playoff thoughts till we get to that topic because I've got some things to say there. But the issue is everything that they have scheduled out, like when the transfer portal officially opens, is like still like right near the end of the bowl season, and players have to decide whether they're going to stay or go while we're getting ready for bowls. National Signing Day just happened, like out of the blue. It's like now all of a sudden players know who's coming in. Are they coming in at my position? When do I go? Like the whole thing, the whole calendar of college football is a complete mess, which again is one of the reasons why I love college football, because it's all a mess. But the reality is that you're forcing these coaches now. What few people talk about is that John Summerall from Tulane already accepted the Florida head coaching job, and he's going to stay and coach Tulane for their bowl game. But because he did it in a quieter, Tulane knows that Florida's a better job than Tulane. So they're not making a fuss about this. They're like, yeah, well, hang on, if you want to coach, then you can go to Florida, do your thing. And the hilarious thing about that is that he's taking exactly half the amount of money that Lane Kiffin is taking to go to LSU. And apparently Lane Kiffin called him and said, you should take the Florida job. So the whole thing's insane. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the reason that this is an issue is the way in which someone like Lane Kiffin does it. It's all about Lane. It's big, it's public, it's all this stuff. But it's happening at other schools too. Like I said, with Tulane and these other people figuring out what jobs take. But because the calendar is so messed up that now these big schools, they have to jump. Florida had Lane Kiffin locked. And then Brian Kelly got fired. They would have kept Brian Kelly for the rest of the season. He literally got fired so that they could jump in the Lane sweepstakes. And then they started pouring money into the Lane Kiffin situation. But they would have kept Brian Kelly but they looked at Florida and said, wait a minute. If Lane's available, we're a better job than Florida. We can offer him more. Like, why not jump in the sweepstakes? Boom, Brian Kelly, you're out of here. Let's go get Lane Kiffin. And then the whole thing, the chaos ensues. Like the whole system is a mess right now. And there does need to be something has to change at some point.
Listen, it's other people's money, but I'll just say this. LSU is currently on the hook for $350 million to 3 football coaches, one of whom works for them.
Orgeron will be working for him too. He'll be on the staff because Lane doesn't want to recruit. He'll send Orgeron to recruit and he'll coach games. That's what he wants.
That's going to cost him.
So can I give an example of how it can work, how it could or can work? And this is an Ohio State thing, right? Brian Hartline, who's different situation. He's an offensive coordinator who's taken a promotion into a head coaching job at USF, South Florida.
Different conference, not a rival, different conference.
Not a rival, different conference. Great opportunity for him and everything else. And here's the news broke. He announced it on National Signing Day, right? And so they're asking Ryan Day about it. And here's what he said. He's like, I think it sort of caught everybody a little bit off guard how quickly it happened and that it happened on signing day. That's not what Brian had in mind when he thought about this. But this is just sort of college football right now. So they've been talking about it and everything else. And then Day goes on to say, we can all complain about it and talk about how it's sideways in terms of all that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm happy for him This is a great opportunity for him. We'll do a good job of focusing on winning this game this week. By the way, they have a championship game to play in like 4 days. And Brian Hartline announces that he's leaving, right? And so Dave says he's going to be a huge part of it for us this week. He said he's going to give us all he has this week to make sure we go win the Big Ten championship and then finish out the season the right way. So Hartline's going to coach with them, for them, through the end of the thing. So a reporter asks Day a follow-up question and says, how in the world is Hartline going to do all the things he needs to do for South Florida and recruit his staff and start talking recruiting and do all the things that he needs to do for his new employer and be the offensive coordinator for you as you're in the Big Ten title game and going into the CFP and all that? And Ryan Day goes, that's kind of his problem, not ours. But he's going to fulfill his obligations to us. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, right? You know what? You're going to work hard for the next 3 or 4 weeks or however long it ends up being because of how this thing played out. It's like night and day difference. And so like it can work. It's still awful that he has to make that announcement on National Signing Day. And so there's recruits that are hanging in the balance and like, I was going to come play for you and blah, blah, blah. So there are still people that lose, but it doesn't have to be so angst ridden. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To be upfront with it is the way to go. And I was waiting for the announcement then that all the receivers that Ohio State was recruiting were going to make a beeline to Ann Arbor, but I haven't seen that news yet. Hopefully that'll happen.
They're going to USC and Oregon, and there's a lot of other places where they're going.
Where they throw the ball forward? That's probably
where
helpful.
There's more money, I think, and where there's stupid money. Well, it's all stupid money, actually. Anyways.
All right, let's turn the corner into the playoff world then, because we went from 4 teams to 12 teams. It was supposed to solve kind of everything. At least that was the sales pitch that was made, and it has not. I don't even think it's necessarily the cutoff between 12 and 13 that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the composition, like the formula for the formation of the 12 teams, because from a conference allocation standpoint, you know, the SEC, I think, believes they should probably have 11 of the 12 teams. And there are conferences whose champion very well could just be left out of the whole thing. David, you were talking about that a little bit earlier. So let me start with you. What is your primary fix for a broken playoff structure?
I mean, I think they're going to go to 16 teams. I don't know if that's going to solve anything either. Let me just say this about the playoff committee. I have heard the words Miami and Notre Dame more in the last week and a half, 2 weeks than I've ever heard in my entire life. We've got the head-to-head win. Yeah, but you have 2 losses to unranked teams. Yeah, but we beat you and we have the same record. Yeah, well, our wins, we beat Syracuse by 70 and you only beat them by whatever. It's totally arbitrary. Every time they come out and they explain their reasoning behind why a team is ranked 12th versus why another team's ranked 10th, whatever. BYU is 11-1 and they have better wins than so. It's like they just contradict themselves all the time. It's 1 year, it's head to head. That's the thing. That's why let's just call it what it is. You want the certain teams in it that bring the most eyes to the program. It's a made-for-TV event. It is an entertainment vehicle. You want the teams that people want to watch. So, yeah, even though Miami beat Notre Dame, we're going to put Notre Dame in. Why? Because more people watch Notre Dame football than Miami football. This is the one beautiful thing right now, and this goes for the NFL and college. There are legitimately, in both leagues, there are 12, 14 teams that I would not be surprised if they won it all. You know, in the NFL, how many teams? Like, Bills have terrible, everyone's just all over the place. But college football is very similar. Miami is just as talented as just about any other team there. There's only one single constant. Ohio State. It's the one constant. It makes me mad, but it's the reality of the situation. And NIL, we were talking about earlier. I mean, Indiana's number 2 in the country? Like, Kirk Cignetti can just come do that? So many things have changed that just about any team has a shot to get in here, and we don't have a system that is good enough to figure out who actually deserves to be one of the 12. Because this is one of those years where the 11 or 12 team could win it all legitimately.
Yeah. Of the 4 of us on this conversation, Dan Davis is geographically closest to South Bend, Indiana. So I don't know if you have to tread lightly in this conversation or not, but I echo what David said. We're just tired of hearing about the Notre Dame arguments. When you see this 12-team structure and how it all gets formulated week by week, and if you happen to be an ACC fan, good luck to you. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Well, I loved, David called back to this earlier, how the ACC has a certain tiebreaker. And then I think even like the Mountain West and the AAC, one's based on computers, one's, And so, imagine just the NFL, if the NFC North had one tiebreaker, and, that's the whole, there's just no central organizing body, right? And so you're always going to get this madness. I will say this. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the NCAA tournament was 32 teams, and we always had basketball, we always had debates about 33 and 34. So they added it to 64. Now it's 68. And so I think this is more or less just kind of parlor games and bar talk. I mean, it'll be curious, back to what David said. It's like, okay, so 12 teams make it. How many are like legit, threats to actually win the whole thing? And we'll see how that goes. But again, the whole Calvin Ball thing, I love that even last year, first year they did it, they said, oh, we don't like how we seeded teams. Now we're going to redo that. And conference champion doesn't have anything to do with it. And now people are saying, oh, the teams that had buys came out rusty. I mean, it's hilarious.
Paul, you have a kind of a vested fan interest in the Big Ten championship game. And I know that Ryan Day has said frequently that we want to be Big Ten champions. But down deep, they want to be national champions. So does Indiana. So would you like to see the Buckeyes play their starters throughout this, what I think a lot of people would consider to be kind of meaningless Big Ten game in Indianapolis on Saturday?
It's an exhibition at this point.
Right, that's what, yeah.
So, it's 1 versus 2 in the country. It should be for 4 of the conference. It should be massive, but it's kind of like...
Because both of them are guaranteed a spot in the top 12. So what would you do as a Buckeye?
Yeah, well, I can tell you when I talk to my buddies who are Buckeye fans, we talk about win the game, but sit everyone as soon as you can. So it's like that. It's like that tension. If Ohio State had not had this 4-year drought of beating Michigan and winning the Big Ten, then it might not feel as important, right? But I think there is interest definitely in winning the game, but they're not also not gonna push themselves. Signetti would probably try to run up the score, but I don't think Ohio State would. I do think part of the implication of, like, I agree with you, David, that the CFP is going to go to 16, because I think that does eliminate the first round buys and everything else, and it levels the playing field, and it buys more first round home field matchups, which was the best part of last year. Those were the funnest games to watch and all that kind of stuff. So I get all of that stuff, but then you start talking about, do teams even do a conference championship, or do they do championship weekend and have multiple games playing in the Big Ten or the SEC or whatever? And I'm sure that will arrive at whatever solution generates the most revenue, because that's always, you just follow the money in this thing. I'd be bummed if Ohio State lost this weekend, but I would, about 24 hours later, I'd be thinking about the CFP.
What do you think? What do you think about this idea? Dedicate 1 week of the season at the end and have like in the Big Ten, you have 2 semifinal matchups, and then you have the championship or something like that. So it's you turn it into an in-conference mini tournament, 2-game tournament. I mean, something like that could add some juice to this. But the fact that the committee has basically made up their minds before championship week even happens in a lot of cases. I mean, there's some automatic qualifiers, but if Duke wins the ACC, they're not automatically getting put in with, at 8 and 5.
Yeah, well, and the other thing with the current structure is the honey hole seed is the number 5 seed, right? That's the best position to come out of. Ohio State benefited from being seeded like that last year. You play a playoff game at home, and then your matchups are more favorable. I just think it's kind of wonky the way it is set up currently. I think they need to go to 16. I think they need to eliminate the first round buys. Even let's say Ohio State wins, or let's say Ohio State loses the Big Ten championship, so they have a first round game. They still have like 25 days or something like that between playing the Big Ten championship and playing their first playoff game. It's not like they have to turn around and play on a short week or whatever. So there's plenty of time in the schedule for all of that. And I do think it's going to raise that question. It's definitely, I know, in like, how much does it matter, the Ohio State Michigan game? Well, that game still matters because there's bragging rights and everything else. But like the hierarchy has changed. That game matters, kinda. The Big Ten, well, that game definitely matters. The Big Ten championship matters, kinda. The CFP is the ultimate goal, but when you get eliminated from the CFP, you talk about how much more important the other things are, and that's just kind of how we justify how we participate as fans, right?
You know, Paul, why they have that 25-day gap, right? Because the student athletes have to catch up on their homework.
That's right.
So, Dan, I'm going to
take all their finals and all that stuff.
Yeah, they've got a lot of reading to do. I'm going to give you the athletic director's hat for whatever university that is in contention for the playoffs. But because you suffered a loss against a pretty high-quality opponent, you're out. What's the incentive anymore to schedule tough non-conference games? Why would you do it?
That's Texas, right? Isn't that what's coming?
Yeah, there's a few teams with that argument.
Miami, Notre Dame, too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. Well, and again, it's kind of, what are the rules? Let's play to the rules, but nobody can tell you the rules, or the rules change every year. No, I'm with you. I mean, why? Why do it? And again, the SEC has that what about week 9 stretch where they're playing Samford and these FCS 1AA schools, and they're not punished for that. So it really is perplexing, especially like you guys have said, where now making the playoffs is more. I'm waiting for your hot take, Bill, where you say, are the conference champions becoming the All-Star games? Right? We'll see you after the break, and it is. Well, it's exactly what you said. At least, SEC and Big Ten, what's the incentive? What is the incentive?
I try to learn a little bit from David when he kind of shares his thoughts and kind of goes off a little bit on things. And you're right. You talked about paying the athletes a couple years ago, and here we are. But you've also talked about the revenue driving everything. I do think that we will get to a point where one of two things will happen. The conference championship games will go away, or they will become a mini tournament within the conferences, primarily because, well, two things. One, the money. Two, because there was a time back in the Wayback Machine when every school in the Big Ten played each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a case that my Wolverines had a pretty easy schedule this year and didn't really play that well, but they had a pretty easy schedule compared to, they didn't have to play Penn State. They didn't have to go. When that's the case, when your conference that's named for 10 teams has 28 teams in it, then you're going to have to create NFC North, South, and you're going to have to do these divisions and then have a conference championship that would lead to your Super Bowl. If you follow the analogy,
yeah.
David, which of those two do you think is more likely to happen? No more conference championship games, or the expansion of the tournament within a conference like you would have for basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I generally think that they're going to do something like a semifinal game to a true conference championship. I don't think they'll ever go like totally away from the championship situation, just because there's something about being able to say we're Big Ten champs, we're SEC champs, like we deserve a higher ranking, a higher status, something like that. And again, as you noted, it's about the revenue that comes in. And if you're all of a sudden talking about, Oregon plays Ohio State and Indiana plays Michigan, and then the winner of that will play again, or winner of that will play for the championship. Like, I think that would be like, I mean, if Michigan and Ohio State played and then like 2 weeks later they're playing again for the conference championship in a rematch, like, and then both of them are going to the playoff with a potential to play for a third time. Like, there's so much money in that. I just don't see how they don't want to get to that model at some point.
You have 19-year-old kids playing an NFL length schedule. I mean, it's wild to think that could be the case.
I actually think, sorry, Dad, I actually think your scenario is really viable if the CFP goes to a multi-bid structure. Because if the Big Ten had 4 automatic bids to the CFP, then they could have their championship weekend be 1 versus 2 in their conference, and both of those teams are getting bids, but that's how they determine who the conference champ is. And then they could do like a 3 plays 6 and a 4 plays 5, and the winners of those games get the bids into the CFP. That would actually be really cool. As a Big Ten fan, I think that would be awesome, right? And that would generate a huge amount of money. But I think it's predicated on the CFP changing how it hands out bids. And who knows if and when that'll happen.
If Tony Petitti has his way, the whole thing will be brought to you by AT&T.
Yeah.
Last word on the playoffs, we'll give to Colin Cowherd.
March Madness has 68 teams. Easier to explain than this. I can explain over the next 5 minutes the blockchain easier than I can the college football playoff. This is a perfect time to go back to my 10 to 20 year rant on the ridiculousness of college football.
In other words, David, you should be co-hosting with Colin Cowherd because you've said pretty much exactly the same thing, which leads us to holy discontent.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
All right, Paul, why don't you start us off?
Okay, my holy discontent this week is with the Legend Bay family. You guys don't know who that is because you don't follow Ohio State like I do. He's a recruit that was committed to Tennessee, and he flipped to Ohio State, and Buckeye fans are all excited. And then on National Signing Day, just yesterday, he has the little presser thing at his high school with all of his Ohio State gear and takes all his pictures with his friends and all that other stuff. And then he sends his commitment papers in to Ohio State, and they reject them because they say to him, hey, your mom called. And you need to talk as a family, and you need to figure out that you guys are together on this. So they're like, send the papers back once your family is all on the same page, right? So he's like, okay. Meanwhile, his mom and his brother, who want him to go to Tennessee, allegedly flip his commitment back without it's not what he wants. So he signs with Tennessee, and there's questions about who signed the papers.
Autopen.
And he's now committed to Tennessee. You go to his social accounts, and he's posting things that get deleted about how he doesn't want to play for Tennessee. He wants to play for Ohio State and all this other stuff. And there's rumors now that his mom got a kicker from the University of Tennessee for him to commit there.
What?
So now here he is on the day after National Signing Day. He's 17 years old. He can't commit to a school without a parent's signature. So he just came out and said he's going to wait 2 weeks till he turns 18. Then he's going to sign his own commitment to the school he wants to go to. But that's now predicated on Tennessee giving him a release from the commitment that he just made under duress to the University of Tennessee, which means he has to wait till January 2nd when the transfer portal opens, and then he can transfer to the school he wants to go to. It's the craziest story I've seen in forever. And I'm like, hey, mom, hey, older brother, let the kid go play football where he wants to go play football. And I don't know how often that happens. I'm sure way more often than we know about or hear about and everything else, but he literally came out and said, I'm signing here to keep peace in the family. It's not where I want to go, and I'm going to ask out of my commitment as soon as I'm legally allowed to. Crazy. Crazy.
That really is. And does a letter of intent really mean anything? It's like a non-compete clause these days.
Yeah.
Dan Davis, do you have anything that's kind of burning you up right now?
I'm still thinking about a first name called Legend.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. That is, legendary. It seems that every time, Bill, that I'm on for Holy Discontent, it has to relate to how we consume sports and viewing and networks. So I don't like the Big Ten, Fox, FS1, Big Ten Network, CBS, Paramount Plus, NBC, Peacock. You mentioned Tony Petitti, and it's, I think they, for the sake of money, sold a lot of inconvenience and frustration to us fans. And I could keep on going. Why we brought in Rutgers and Maryland, I still can't get over that as well. And just whatever you feel for those games, and now you literally have both coasts, right? And you've got Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, and they're even having to play crack of dawn morning games, or fans on the East Coast staying up really late. That's a mess. So super frustrated with the Big Ten and how they've played that out with just consuming sports from time you watch the games to how hard it is to find the game to even watch in the first place.
Yeah, you're right. And all you have to do to gauge the impact of cross-country travel is look at the record of basketball teams going cross-country. They're almost always, the team traveling gets smoked. It's just not right for the body clock. David Collins, you're wholly discontent.
Don't forget, Michigan, though, did go out west for that tournament and smacked every team they played, including Gonzaga, which was by 40. Pretty nice.
That's crazy.
So I know we weren't going to talk about it, but I just have to say my piece here. My wholly discontent is a head coach at the University of Michigan named Sharon Moore. I had Paul, everybody knows I had no delusions that Michigan was going to win this game. I think they're going to lose it every year, whatever. What we saw on that Saturday game was coaching malpractice.
Yep.
You have a $12 million quarterback, and the first half, his numbers were 3 completions on 5 attempts. Okay. And then they ran the ball 20 times. Okay. You didn't run. Your best wide receiver, Marsh, had 0 targets the entire game. Okay. Your tight end, Klein, who's one of your other best targets, had 1 target the entire game. You had your 3rd string running back in, and you ran the ball almost exclusively. Bryce Underwood is a great athlete. They had 1 designed quarterback run the entire game. I cannot, as a liker of football, as a former football coach myself, I called offenses for a high school football team down in Florida. I cannot understand how you do not get the ball into the hands of your best players in that game.
Preach.
And I know Bryce looked a little shook and he wasn't sticking on some of his reads and there's all sorts of excuses you can make. How you can justify calling what they went into that game with as a game plan is mind-boggling to me. It was horrific to watch as a fan of just football in general, but to know that it's the team that I'm rooting for makes it even harder. So
Amen.
I just want to say my piece there.
Oh, man. Amen. Take the offering. That's fantastic.
Let's pass the plate.
We're going to pass the plate now for my holy discontent because Odell Beckham has brought to light a really serious problem amongst athletes, and that is the difficulty in being expected to live with only $100 million over a 5-year period of time. I'll let Odell explain.
And I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use,
save,
invest, flaunt, whatever, however, just being real. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to give my mama a house. I'm going to do, everything costs money. So if you're spending $4 million a year, that's really $40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting $8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position, like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime.
Yeah, that would be us, the people who ain't us and ain't in that position. We would say that should last a lifetime. So I'm sad for Odell, who's, my understanding is, trying to get back into football, probably because money's a little tight. But I had never really taken the time to do the math, so I'm going to consider this a learning moment for myself. I had never done the math, that if I had a 5-year, $100 million contract, it's really only 5 years, $60 million because of the taxes, depending on which state you live in. You're probably down $40 million. leaving you with simply $1 million per month to try to scrape out an existence. So I'm both a little irritated with Odell, but I'm also thankful for the lesson in economics. I stopped just short of making him my that guy. So, wow. Thank you, Odell. Thank you.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
So that guy segment, calling out people that we just want to give a tip to the cap to. And I'm going to start this one. Usually I'll kick it around, I'll go last. But I'm going to start this one because my that guy is one Paul Miller. Yeah, I know. Nobody had that in the office pool. Paul's a Bears fan and a Buckeyes fan. I cannot imagine being on a better roll. One team you expect, the other team, Paul, it's got to be the biggest surprise in all of sports, at least certainly in football. The Bears continue to defy logic, and in 1 hour and 8 minutes from now, when our Lions kick off against the Cowboys in just a must-win, season-defining game, it's because we have to catch the stinking Bears that nobody thought would have more than 5 wins, including Bears fans. So how you feeling right now as that guy? How you feeling in that chair where you're winning everything?
Well, I'm super honored, Bill, and I just want to figure out how to not say anything that's going to break the jinx because I'm just waiting for the shoe to fall. We talked about that. I'm so excited for the Bears, and I fully expect.
I want to hear how that. Right there. No, I want to hear how that thought ends. Come on, you got to end the thought.
I don't know what's going to happen when they play the Packers 2 times in the next 3 weeks. I'll just say it that way.
Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah, we have to chase the Packers, too. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, what's your that guy? Or who is your that guy?
My that guy, real quickly, is Trey Henderson, the running back for the New England Patriots. They were doing their whole NFL My Cause, My Cleats thing, where players get to customize their cleats. And so his cleats this past weekend were in support of persecuted Christians across the globe. And the only thing he put on his cleat was Matthew 5:10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Wow. Enough said. Mic drop. Way to go, Trey.
Very cool. Dan and David, before you share with us you're that guy, if you have somebody, you have to lead it off by predicting the outcome of Lions-Cowboys tonight so we can get you on record. So, Dan, do you have that guy? I guess I should ask you first of all, and then what's your prediction for the game?
Well, as a pastor, I don't know how I follow Paul in such a lofty, example. I was thinking 2 guys, J.B. Bickerstaff and Trajan Langdon. Yeah. 17 wins, which already passed Monty Williams at 14. Also passed Dwayne Casey's final year, 17 wins for the entire season.
I forgot about
equaled. So talk about a pinch me moment. This is kind of the Bears run. Like, I can't believe how well they're playing, and especially after you shared the Lions' woes. Not feeling good about tonight. Not going to be honest. So I'm not going to give a score, but I cannot believe that the spread is Detroit -3, that the points are with Detroit actually. So I don't know. This is a hard one.
You're not feeling confident though.
I am not.
Yeah. David, where are you? And who's your that guy?
Well, my that guy was going to be Lane Kiffin, as I said earlier, but I think Dan said it best when he simply said, don't hate the player, hate the game. All right. The guy's playing the game and he's playing it right. Nobody can fail upwards like that. He trips and falls upstairs. It's amazing. So I do love that. And then I was going to pivot from that to the Detroit Pistons. So he took that one from me too, but that's okay. I'm just going to stay there. Tough loss last night. That was a little embarrassing. I'll tell you what this team needs to figure out to stop turning the ball over in the fourth quarter. Yep. We keep blowing 20-point leads and making games close that don't need to be close. But the team's winning games, a 13-game win streak earlier this season. Like, Cade Cunningham he's a superstar now. Like, there's no way around that. They're playing old school ball, Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren down low. You can't get in the paint, and they can get in the paint. It's been an unbelievably fun team to watch this entire season. They're beating good teams. And I can't wait for the rest of the season. And even if this isn't the year, we've got the groundwork set for a long time because of, like you said, Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff. So I think that's awesome. As for tonight, everything inside me says the Cowboys are going to win and win relatively easy. So I'm taking the Lions in a big win, 42-17.
Wow. Wow. I like that. David, I don't know if that's confidence or just outlandish craziness, but I like your
second
idea.
one.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Bill, there's still this streak, going back to 22, where they haven't lost consecutive games. I mean, it
is in Detroit. Right. And we were talking off air last year. All of the injuries were on defense. This year, they are spread evenly on both sides of the ball with starters everywhere. So it's such a depleted team. I don't know what to expect, but that's why we get to watch the game here in an hour or so. And it is a season definer, though, right, David? It's done if they lose.
I think if they lose, it's probably done because, as Paul said earlier, the Packers and Bears play each other twice. If one of those teams happens to win both, or if they split, like either way, you're looking at falling that far behind. And with, the NFC East, Seattle, San Francisco is 9-4, like the last spot in the playoffs right now. So you're looking at potentially having to win the division. I would say you'd need 11 wins, which would mean they'd have to go 4-1 the rest of the way. And we have to go to the Rams next week. And so it's a mess. But hey, you know what? At least we're having this conversation. Imagine before Dan Campbell got here, us ever having this conversation about being sad that we're kind of underperforming a little bit.
Another conversation we're going to have next week is what do we have to do to never see Ben Johnson take his shirt off again? Okay. Let's.
Bill?
Yeah.
Next week, here's the other thing, and I don't know how you Michigan fans are dealing with this, but the defensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes, that's got to be a tough pill for y'all to swallow too.
We've got so many tough pills on the counter right now. We're trying to grind them up into a fine powder and put them in soup or in our dog food because everything hurts right now. All right, let's close it out with our 3-minute message. Paul Miller.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay, so this has been a really fun conversation today. We talked about Lane Kiffin and all the ups and downs and ins and outs of the soap opera that his coaching career has been. Talked about players flipping their commitments and everything else. And I just want to share one part of one verse with us that talks about what does your word mean? And are you trustworthy? Would people consider you to be trustworthy? Psalm 15, verse 4, the back half of the verse simply says, keep your word even when it costs you. And so we can sit here and throw stones at guys who have multi-million dollar decisions to make and everything else. But in our everyday lives, we have choices every day where we can either keep our word, even if it costs us a little something, or we can choose to shade our word, not let our yes be yes and our no be no, because that'll just eliminate a little bit of pain for us. I just want us all to consider that challenge from Psalm 15. Keep your word even when it costs you. When those opportunities come up this week, next week, going into the holiday season, just remember that and see what Jesus might have you do.
Well said. Thanks so much for doing that. And Pastor Dan, so good to have you back with us. If we don't see you before Christmas, our best to you and Kathy and the expanding family. And the future name of, what was that name we had in there, Champ? What was the name from earlier?
Legend. Oh, Legend, yeah.
Legend Davis.
Hey, before we sign out, just a quick shout out to my cousin Carly. She is a nutritionist that works with the Chicago Bears. Started this year, and then they're good. So she's the reason that the Bears are good.
Why don't we have her in Detroit? Everybody's hurt in Detroit, and she's got them eating tofu
She's
down
over there having the Bears running wild. She's high-fiving Ben Johnson in the hallway. It makes me sad, but I'm happy for her.
David, if she's not on next week's podcast, We're taking it out of your pay.
She's not much of a talker.
Well, all the words went to the one guy in the family, so good stuff. Hey, thanks, guys, and thank you all for listening. Check us out online at churchpewsports.com, and we will talk to you again next week.